Hey, Kim, it was a joy being in your space. Thank you so much for having me. As you watch yourself, use this time to just kind of ask yourself what were the strengths and where can I refine? Please give yourself credit. There were lots of awesome things about this. And then I'd like to discuss what you think at a meeting within this next week. At the end of it, I'll share with you some thoughts that I have, which is why I want you to think about this before you hear anything from me. Enjoy yourself. You're a heck of a lot of fun, and there's a small blooper reel at the end.
You can sort of see it. This is the category of stuff that you're going to experience by feeling it or seeing it and not just tasting it. All right? So, common. I love this, man. This is like the biggest dig, okay? You're like, where is it? This tea, you're like, oh, I don't know, it's pretty common. It's just, right? So that's saying that this has nothing to write home about, right? It is just boring. But you're not going to say boring, you're going to say, that's common, right? Flowing is talking about supple, right? You want something that, like, when you're drinking it, it like rolls down your throat all by itself, right? Not for nothing, this blue drink, or the purple drink rather, this thing is pretty supple. I mean, it's got enough going for it, and a lot of times with lemon juice, it becomes more astringent and dry, but you've managed to make something with a really nice viscosity. We talked about that yesterday, the sliminess of it, so that it's supple and it just sort of rolls down my throat. This is a tasty bev, and I would call it flowing. Okay?
Ooh, this is gutty, like a thick, full body liquor. That's a good
You're
one.
gonna take that one, man. Well, the thing about that too is you can put milk and it's still legit. Because some teas, if you put milk into it, you wind up with just like weak milk.
Yeah.
So a gutty tea is gonna be something that like
I think
stands
that
out.
what a chai tea is.
Spicy. Well, I mean, chai tea is with milk, so you would have to choose a tea that was especially gutty. Yes, definitely. I 100% am with you on that. What if a tea is hungry? What do you think? Right here.
This tea is like a cup of quality.
That tea is like clawing back up the top of your mouth, being like, I'm not ready yet, right? So if a tea is hungry, you're like, yeah, it's cool, but like it leaves something to be desired, right? If it's light, what happens if a tea is light?
Very thin.
Yeah, you're like, meh, that's cool. It's lacking in, I love that you got this. Not pungent, right? A light tea is not going to be pungent. You're going to be like, is it in my mouth? I don't know, I can't tell yet. Muddy.
I included these just in case you didn't hold on to the original copies. In either case, ask yourself, does this show that students get what I wanted them to get? If yes, great. What did I do that I should do for next time? If not, what will I do to change that in the future? So I just want to go over some things that you did really well. One, with all that vocab, thank you for switching up into the relevant tiers. It definitely made things easier for them to process. Also, you made relevant student connections to these very esoteric terms. You constantly were trying to link it to things that they knew. That connection to real life experience not only helps with the immediate understanding, but the processing long term. Students began modeling usage on their own. I think that's a testament to the engagement of your presentation, but also the way you were making those connections. Deshaun and Mark are just, they're just two of my favorite. I love them. One thing you did that I hope you really hold on to was this consistent spiraling of terms you'd already used, and you did that during the notes and the tasting. It was impossible not to have to bring that in. The only note on that is to give students more time to answer and really make sure that they have that understanding. Really strong work. So one thing I want you to consider for next time is the balance and scope. You mentioned this. There were a lot of terms. You want to give them enough that they have to think and choose between a variety, but not enough to be overwhelmed. Less is more. They're going to be able to latch on to more over the course of the long haul by not being presented with everything at once. You knew that, you mentioned it, let's hold on to it for next time. Also, your lecturing was incredibly engaging, and it asked a lot of questions, but at the same time did not always give space for student thought and answering. If you want to review it, think about the lead time you gave between asking some of those hypotheticals, even in a small group, and between when they moved on. We have opportunities there. We don't want to lose that flair that you have because it's extremely engaging and it hooks. We also can add to that with some interactive elements that put the students back in their minds for just a moment and let them hold on to some key thoughts. Hey, this last thing is just an idea I have for processing and holding those things on. In between when you actually do the tasting and when you've introduced all the terms, so that space in between that new information and the application of that new information, I would suggest having students just list their 1 to 2 favorite drinks, and then from each of the categories of aroma, body, all those stuff, have them try to describe it. It's just a way for them to build that connection to their own world, just like you so often did throughout the presentation, and keep it real tight, about 8 minutes total. 2 to 3 minutes, you're completely silent, they just write, and then they talk to each other for the next 5 minutes. It's a way to remove yourself and let their minds do its work of transferring new knowledge into short-term memory into application.
So tell me, what about Chesty?
Chesty LaRue. Let me tell you about okay, so chesty, when you're thinking it's like chesty, you're thinking it's gonna be loud and like from your chest, but it's actually not.